Hey everybody, Elio here with a deck tech and eventually some matches with one of my decks, Mindsucker. Demure with a little bit of green deck. It's a deck. I don't quite know how to classify it. It's got a lot of disruption, kind of mid-rangey, but I guess we'll just kind of talk about it. So first time I played this deck, was in one of the tournaments, and I won that tournament with this event. And I tried to I wasn't recording at the time, and I've tried to record some matches since then, different league matches, but I basically keep messing up the videos. Um, so hopefully the run that I was able to eventually get, people are happy with, because I had to go through a lot of games just to get myself where I wasn't dropping sound randomly or stuff like that. So, anyways, this deck, it's Brain Maggots, Mesmeric Fiend. So basically, 8 of this Mesmeric Fiend thing, and a lot of exile effects with these 7 processors that can get rid of these exile effects. It runs main deck Phyrexian Furnace. Which is good for the processors, but it's also just randomly good against a lot of things in the format. A lot of blue decks are running Treasure Cruise. There's a lot of combo-based graveyard decks like World Gorger Dragon. And worst case, you can just cycle it. So it's never dead in any matchup because of that cycle. The Brain Maggots and Mesmeric Fiend are both just great disruption pieces against most strategies. We've got a 2 of Horribly Awry and 2 of Void Shadow split to deal with 2 different decks, basically, kind of low to the ground creature decks or everything else. Fathom Feeder is a sweet card for a couple of reasons. It ingests for your processors. It can draw a lot of cards against control decks. It's kind of a must-answer card for them because if you just leave it on the board, even if you can't attack with it, the card advantage that it can generate over a couple turns can be really important against decks like Cleansing Control, and they actually can't just leave it up. Nightveil Spectre, one of the old all-stars from the Devotion days, exiles things for your processors, plus just gives you kind of card advantage, and is pretty much your best early blocker that doesn't just trade with things like the Fathom Feeder. Fathom Feeder, by the way, also good because it trades with anything. It's better against mid-range decks like Temur Ascendancy for that case, but even against aggressive decks, it's good to have something that will kill whatever they attack with. So Trade Wind Rider is awesome because a lot of times when you play these Brain Maggot Mesmeric Fiend effects, they get you end up just with these 1/1s on the board, these Squires that can't do anything, and Trade Wind Rider turns those into value. Trade Wind Rider on a normal board can do a lot of things to just keep things in check, and sometimes it can just run away with the game. You can do a couple tricks with it, like playing a Mesmeric Fiend and then immediately bouncing that Mesmeric Fiend, tapping itself so that you can permanently exile something. You can also kind of get near infinite counter spells against decks with the Ulamog's Nullifier in some games. With Prophet of Kruphix, if you get Prophet plus Trade Wind Rider out, you generally just win the game. You start to get to the point where you can just bounce anything that you want, and it's very hard for a lot of decks to come back from that if they allow you to develop that kind of board. You can also bounce your own lands to get extra mana, bounce their lands to keep them stuck on mana, etc. The processors are sweet because not only do they obviously exile all of these different exile effects, but they also get rid of the cards under Brain Maggot and Mesmeric Fiend permanently. So if you do a Mesmeric Fiend Brain Maggot into some sort of processor, they're never going to get those cards back, which is just a lot of good value and turns that disruption into something permanent. The Prophet of Kruphix is insane with the Trade Wind Rider. Is really good with the Fathom Feeder and against the decks that Fathom Feeder is good against, just because it turns into so much card draw. The Flash turns your Mesmeric Fiends into sort of Vendilion Click-like cards, since you can play them on their draw step and get rid of whatever they drew before their main phase. Because it just helps you leave up mana for things like Ulamog's Nullifier. The Nullifier is just a great counterspell. It's Mystic Snake with 1 more toughness and flying. And Blightherder can just win the game by itself, since it's so much power on the board. And the guys being able to sack for a mana when they come up can sometimes come into play to allow you to more easily leave out counterspells. The strength of the deck is just that there's so much disruption here, and you can really have multiple avenues to win the game. Hopefully we'll see in the matches. And a lot of your things are really resilient to what people are trying to do. Like your ultimate price is one of the best removal spells, and it doesn't hit your Fathom Feeder, your Night Veil Spectre, Nullifier, Blightherder, Prophet of Krufix. A lot of people try to bring in Gainsay as a blue decks to deal with other blue decks and their counter spells, and none of your counter spells are blue. They're all colorless. There's just a lot going on here. The sideboard, we've got 2 more Horribly Ryan, 2 more Void Shatter. Some decks, the decks that those are good against, usually one of them comes out and the other goes in. 3 Deadweights. Sorry, that is a little confusing. These are good against aggro decks, things that are low to the ground. It's one of the things that can just slow them down, so hopefully we can try to get something going. It's also good against things like Raphalos, or if you're playing against other Mesmeric Fiend decks, it's good. 1 Vampire Nighthawk, also against those aggro decks, but also against burn decks or anything that's that has reach. Having a little bit of lifelink is nice. Lobotomy is good against some combo decks. It's really good against control decks. If you can hit a Wrath, getting rid of a playset of one of their Wraths can be really good. Because a lot of those control matchups are just trying to manage around their Wrath of God effects. Sultai Charm against a lot of decks is basically just destroy target non-land permanent. So destroying artifacts, enchantments, monocolored things. Plus it has a catalog effect if you just need to cycle it. It has a ton of uses. Just seems really good. And then the 2 more Furnaces for graveyard combo decks to finish that out. This deck is really good against any kind of combo deck, whether or not it's a World Gorger or if it's something like Dragonstorm. The 8 Mesmeric Fiend effects with the counters and everything just is so much disruption that it's very difficult for combo decks to overcome it. It's pretty good against kind of either control decks or kind of mid-rangey value decks. Tends to have a winning record against them, though it's a more even matchup. And its worst matchup is definitely aggressive decks, like zombies are red deck wins. So if you're trying to look to hedge those matches up a little bit more Vampire Nighthawks might be better. Something like Ultimate Price could be something that you could look for. Otherwise, our kind of, again, like combo and mashup is really strong, etc. Yeah, the deck's a ton of fun to play. Hope you guys enjoy it. Here are some games after this.